welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if this is the first video of mine that you are watching. First of all, I would love if you took a second and pressed the subscribe button. It really helps me as a smaller YouTuber. I just put this sweatshirt on and I'm sitting on the ground because I feel like today's video is just like a sit on the ground chatty video. The vibes felt right, you know? I don't really have a plan for this video. I have been asked a couple times by people, like mainly on my Instagram or just comments on my videos, asking me to talk a little bit more about my mindset. I wasn't really sure how I wanted to actually do this. I didn't want to be like really cheesy and be like 10 tips to have a better mindset. I don't know, I'm just going to kind of, I guess, like tell you about my journey to getting like a more positive mindset. I don't want you guys to think by any means that I'm like perfect or like this amazing human who just like has it all figured out. I definitely don't, but I am a lot different than I was, I would say, like 3 years ago. I just want to share with you guys like the things that I do, the things that help me. I think that everyone is obviously very different, so different things are going to resonate with different people. So that's not to say that like everything that I say in this video you absolutely have to do. If anything doesn't resonate with you, then don't try and force it, just do what feels good for you. But if any of this does resonate with you, then I'm happy to help. If you have any like questions or anything, I would love if you ask me in the comments and I will definitely answer you, or send me a DM on Instagram. My Instagram is always linked down in the description box. So I know on social media, on YouTube and on Instagram, it's easy to, and I've done it too, it's easy to look at people and just be like, well, they have it all figured out, or their life is just easy, so like it's obviously easy for them to like be positive and stuff because they just like had it so easy. But on social media, as we all know, it's more of a highlight reel. We don't see people's real lives. I grew up in a single parent household. My dad never paid his child support money. I grew up in a small town, so I always felt like different than I guess everyone else and like all my friends. I think I was the only person whose like parents weren't together. I wouldn't even say that I had like a bad childhood or anything. I guess we all just like have our own shit. We definitely weren't like super well off. I remember when my mom told me that like I was having to pay for my schooling. Everyone else, like their families were at least like helping them or like giving some money or like paying tuition, whatever. And I remember when my mom told me that no one was able to help me, that I had to completely pay it all. And I just remember feeling so hard done by. And I think that's also just like part of growing up and like being a teenager. But I think that kind of like hard done by mentality definitely stayed with me. Just feeling like other people have it easier. Like, why is my life like this? Why is my like parent situation like this? Why could we not just be more well off? That was kind of like my mindset. And like even at the time, like I wouldn't have said that I was really negative. Like I didn't really think that of myself, I guess. Somehow the idea that your thoughts become your reality was like introduced to me. I think maybe my mom told me to watch The Secret on Netflix. From there I got really into Tony Robbins. Who else? So yeah, just kind of the idea that like your thoughts become your reality and what you put out into the universe or whatever is what comes back to you. I literally had an epiphany. I realized how much I had the mentality of just like that I was hard done by. I was always like dreading going into work. I didn't know like what I wanted to do with my life. I dealt with like a lot of anxiety. I felt anxious every single time I have to go to work while I was also in school. And then again, like the hard done by mentality, like why do I have to work when I'm in school? Through all of that stuff, I kind of just realized how negative I really was and how like toxic I was speaking to myself in my head. So I really just kind of like started to be aware of all of that and like notice how I was doing that, and the fact that like yeah, my life kind of wasn't really going in the direction that I wanted it to be going, and that wasn't going to change unless I changed the way that I was speaking to myself in my head and treating myself. If you're watching this video, you might already be aware of kind of like the thoughts that are going on in your head, and maybe that you are negative and you just don't know how to really get out of that. So once I kind of realized and was like aware that I was doing this to myself, I would wake up and just kind of, I was able to like decide to be positive and decide to be excited, because this was all just like very new to me. Like these concepts were very new to me. So I was kind of just almost like, let's like play with this. Literally decided to just like be happy and be excited to go into work. And I started realizing that like when I just, even if I wasn't necessarily feeling excited, I would like repeat to myself like, no, I'm so excited to go into work. I'm so excited for this. My days were going better, like literally instantly. That also kind of just reinforced that I am doing this to myself. If you are being negative, if you are dreading everything, if you have that like victim, poor me mentality, then like that's just gonna continue being your reality. That's going to continue happening to you, versus if you literally decide to just like be excited, be positive, choose. If you're having a negative thought, like it's just kind of starting to realize that, and then in realizing that, you realize that that thought isn't actually you, and you can stop the thought, and then you can replace it with a positive thought. And I honestly think that it was easier then than it is sometimes now. Like it's definitely a habit that you have to get into, because I mean, if you go years and years of having this poor me mentality, you aren't just going to change overnight. But I think definitely at the beginning, like it was really cool because it did feel very easy, but it also, that was able to like reinforce and show me that like this is real, and like if I actually can sustain being like that, like how different my life can be than it was. And it is already. Whether you're at that point or not, if you're not, I'm going to try and find some of the things that like I listened to when I kind of like was first going through this, and I'll have them linked in the description box so that you guys can like check that stuff out. If you are already kind of at that realization and like you get it, but you just don't know how to continue with that, or I guess like continue to have that like implemented or practice it, then the rest of the video is just going to be tips on like how I do that. So something that I basically started doing right away, and I'm sure that you guys have heard of this before, not groundbreaking, but I almost immediately started gratitude journaling. Sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes it's at night, sometimes it's in the middle of the day. It doesn't get done every single day, but I do it as often as feels good to me or as I feel it's needed. I will get out a journal and just start writing things I'm grateful for, no matter how small or maybe normal or weird or stupid it may sound. Some days it's really exciting, like I'm so grateful that I got a new client today, or I'm so grateful that I got 2 new subscribers today. And sometimes it's smaller stuff, like I'm so grateful for the home that I live in. I'm so grateful for my dogs that I have. I'm so grateful for my boyfriend that's so supportive of me and everything I do. I'm so grateful that it's sunny today. Literally anything, no matter how small it is, and that just helps you to get into the mindset of just like being grateful, even if you maybe didn't wake up in the best mood or whatever. It's kind of a way to help try and shift that for you and realize that there is good. I think with that, it helps me to just in my daily life, like when a situation comes up or whatever, it's easier for me to look for the good in something. So even if it's something that's bad happening to me, what is this trying to teach me? What am I learning from this? Like I said, I grew up in a single parent household. That is a whole thing on its own. I could still look at that and say, I'm so hard done by. Had my dad paid his child support, I would have maybe had more opportunities. I would have maybe been able to do more. He would have maybe been able to help me pay for my university, and maybe I wouldn't have had to work throughout university, which is like all true. But at the same time, without that experience, I wouldn't be the same person that I am today. Some things that I value a lot in myself is how hardworking and determined I am. Extremely determined to be successful, and be successful like on my own, and be able to provide for myself and the people that I love. And I don't think I would be as driven as I am if I didn't have that experience. And so obviously that's something that I'm extremely grateful that I have in me. There's obviously tons of other stuff, but it's just kind of starting to look at situations like that, whether it be childhood trauma like me, or just like, I don't know, with a friend, or not getting accepted into the university or college that you wanted. We just moved into like our new house. So before this place that we got, which I'm absolutely in love with, like so incredibly, it literally couldn't be more perfect, the place that we live, I love it. But before this place, we applied to 4 other places that we were also like super excited for. But now having this one, looking at the other ones that we applied to, I'm so happy that we didn't get those ones. At the time, I mean, I got a little bit upset by it, but honestly, like I'm pretty proud of the way that I handled it, because a couple of years ago, every single time we got denied, I would have been like crushed, like, oh my god, like we're never gonna find a place. But I just, this time around, kept very like, okay, like we weren't accepted, like that's not for me then, and we're gonna get something that's even better. And then we literally did. About a year ago, and again, if you follow me on Instagram and everything, I've talked about this a little bit on my stories, just like my mental health kind of like issues in the past year or so. Last summer, I would say I definitely had like the worst mental health that I probably have ever had, and I think that there was a lot of contributing factors to that. I had moved very far away, like 6 hours from where I grew up and like where basically all of my friends were. I kind of had a falling out with one of my really close friends, and then not long after, another kind of falling out with another one of my really good friends. So I didn't have a great support system. I basically lost like 2 people that were really, really close to me. I was living in a place that I didn't absolutely love. We were living in an apartment building that came furnished, so I didn't really like the apartment building that much to begin with. It was just like really small, and then it came fully furnished, and like the walls were painted and stuff, and like I just didn't really like it. And like it was fine, you know, it was nice enough, but I didn't love it. Like it didn't feel like mine. So I think I just felt also very out of place. I never felt like it was home. My work wasn't really fulfilling me. Like I was really enjoying like the people that I was training and meeting and running my boot camps. I was training in a commercial gym, so I basically had to do everything as they told us to do. It was their pricing, it was the way, you know, everything like laid out the way that they wanted it to be, and I just like really didn't align with that. I've known for a while that I want to work for myself, so a lot of different factors. At first, when I was starting to realize like, wow, I'm getting really anxious again, just like have a lot of negative thoughts again, it's harder for me to turn it around. I was getting upset at myself, like I was almost like judging myself for the fact that I couldn't just like switch it to positive. At this point, like a couple years ago, I've discovered all of this. Like I know that I need to be positive. I know how to do it. I know the things to implement. Nothing was really working, and I couldn't figure out why I was so unhappy. All the reasons that I listed just now, I wasn't like really consciously aware of, I guess. I remember having a conversation with my mom on the phone where I just like broke down, and I was like, I'm so sad, like I don't know what's happening. Nothing really bad is happening to me, but I'm just like so upset. Like I just can't. My mom is a life coach. Maybe I will link her stuff in my description box as well, because she had, I don't even remember what it's called now, but she basically asked me like 5 questions that were about like 5 different like aspects of my life or something, and asked me to rank like how happy I was in each of the things. So it was like out of 10, your support system, your environment, your job. Like I'm not saying those right, but like that was kind of the gist. And then literally with that, realized that, you know, my job wasn't really fulfilling me. I didn't love my home environment. So taking that time to figure out like what it really was that was upsetting me so much, like where it was coming from, obviously was definitely a huge key. If you're not aware of it, then you can't really fix it. You can't do anything about it. You definitely just need to be self-aware. So some of the tools that I used, I already mentioned gratitude journaling. I think also just journaling in general about just your feelings is really, really powerful, because even though you're thinking all these things in your head, once you actually write them down on paper, you understand your own feelings more. Also starting to journal about the things that you want to happen in your life. So that's like getting more into like manifestation and stuff. Something else that really helps me to just like feel positive daily is listening to some sort of podcast or a book or a YouTube video or something in the morning, something inspirational, something motivational, and I listen to that while I make the bed and do my skincare. If I start out just by listening to something positive, it's putting me in that mindset so that I'm more positive, more inspired, more motivated for the rest of the day. Meditation is something that I've done here and there. I kind of go through phases where I do it more and I do it less. Currently, I honestly couldn't tell you the last time that I've done it. I'm sure I'm not the first person that you're hearing meditation from. I think it's just important to say that like you don't need to do it every single day. Maybe that would be like ideal, but don't beat yourself up if you don't do it every single day. It's okay to just start out by doing it once a week or whatever. Developing that ability to, when you feel anxious or you feel you notice a negative thought, being able to stop, recognize where it's coming from, and then do something about it. Spending time alone is also something that really like, that is probably the biggest form of like self-care for me. So you hear so much about self-care and make sure that you're doing this and that and whatever. I think that self-care is so different for everyone, and you need to figure out what your best form of self-care is. What that looks like for me is usually cleaning my space, having everything organized, everything away, taking a shower, lighting a candle, doing some extra like skincare stuff, usually journaling, sometimes listening to a podcast or doing a meditation, listening to R&B music. That just like makes me feel so good. You should figure out what that is for you, like what makes you feel good. And your self-care can be different all the time. Sometimes my self-care is laying in bed and eating snacks and watching Netflix, and that is okay. Everyone likes to post about self-care and what they're doing for self-care and everything. Even what I just said, like that might necessarily not work for you, but you just need to figure out what does work for you and make sure that you're doing that for you. Another huge kind of form of self-care for me, and I think for most people, I would say, is having a space that I love. The apartment that we used to live in that was furnished really didn't feel like my own. We started talking about moving and deciding where we were gonna move and looking at places, knowing when we were looking for a place, like what I needed to feel good. I'm someone who, I hate living in a condo, and we lived in a condo. I hate living in a condo because I feel extremely like trapped in like a little box. Even though we had a balcony, I just feel very, I don't know, there's something about having to go down the elevator and not being able to just like walk right outside that just like makes me feel really trapped. So when we were moving, that was one of my things that I needed. Really hone in on your needs, figure out what your needs are, and I think that a way to do that is also through journaling. The last thing that I will say for this video, working out and being active and doing stuff for your physical health is also extremely beneficial for your mental health, and I think that's something that's actually not talked about enough. Exercise, working out is going to release endorphins. It's going to make you literally feel better. Working out in some capacity, whatever it is, whatever you like, is extremely important for your mental health, for the endorphins that it releases. You just need to figure out what works for you, what you need to do to actually be consistent with it, whatever type of exercise it is for you. If you need to get a trainer, if you need help, if you need to get a gym membership, you need to do whatever you need to do to have exercise as a part of your life. It's going to improve your mental health, and then also just improving your mental health is going to improve like your fitness. That is all. I think I've rambled for a very long time now. I hope that this was at least somewhat helpful. I hope that some of this resonated for you. Please feel free to comment any questions, DM me anything that you want to chat about. I would love to hear what else you would want to see from me in terms of mindset, fitness, literally whatever. I'll see you in my next video, guys. Thank you so much for watching.